Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to sort of challenge your understanding of the new year. For many of us, the year flips over rigidly on December 31st. January 1st is fixed, predictable. It's clean, it's a solar event, a date just carved in stone.
But that static, fixed point, it really only reveals one philosophy of time.
Exactly.
When we look eastward, specifically at the Lunar New Year, also called the Spring Festival, we find a date that shifts, it floats, and it requires this massive astronomical calculation.
Right.
And it's not just a single night of celebration. It's a profound, complex, 15-day cycle of beliefs, tradition, and, arguably the world's most intense annual economic and cultural event.
And that's the fascinating tension we're going to explore, isn't it? How does a holiday that's steeped in, 4,000 years of mythology,
Right.
built on fighting ancient monsters and wrapping protective coins in red paper, how does that survive and thrive in a world of high-speed rail, e-commerce, and digital cash? Our mission today is to extract the detailed knowledge of why the Lunar New Year drives the world's largest human migration and how this festival is currently wrestling with the very technology it's using to survive.
We'll be charting everything. The mythological foundations, the strict chronology of the rituals, the massive global diaspora celebrations, and this profound modern phenomenon of technology redefining ancient customs.
And what's the central question?
Specifically, we want to know if the red envelope, the hongbao, started as a physical amulet to fight a demon, what happens when it becomes a purely digital transfer?
Yeah.
Does that convenience, inadvertently create new forms of social distance?
To understand the culture, you first have to understand the clock.
Yeah.
And the key contrast that sets this entire deep dive in motion is how the very calculation of the date reveals these fundamentally different philosophies of time, East and West. So let's start with the tools they use to measure the architecture of the year. Okay, so let's unpack the calculation of time itself. We live in a world governed by the Gregorian calendar, which is fixed entirely to the sun. It's stable, it's reliable.
Right, it's based on the Earth orbit. Pretty straightforward.
But the Chinese calendar operates on a lunisolar system, a completely different beast.
That lunisolar foundation means it's attempting to harmonize two competing cycles. You've got the solar year, which dictates the seasons, crucial for agriculture.
Thanks, Cord.
And then you have the lunar cycle, which is based on the visible phases of the moon. It's this intellectual juggling act trying to keep those two clocks running at the same time.
And other ancient calendars tried this too, right?
Oh, yeah. Similar systems like the ancient Babylonian or the Hebrew calendars were also incredibly complex for this very reason.
So how does that complex calculation break down into something predictable? I mean, we know the result is this moving holiday. It can land anywhere between January 21st and February 20th.
The sources lay it out pretty clearly. The system uses the moon to define the months. So a month begins precisely on the day of the new moon.
Okay.
But the truly unique lever they use is something called Lichen, which is the first day of spring. The new year is pegged to the new moon that is closest to Lichen.
So the new year isn't just arbitrary at all. It's intrinsically linked to the physical arrival of spring, to the planting season.
Absolutely. The solar year, or Sui, is divided into 24 of these solar terms, or Zheqi. Lichen is the very first one, and it typically falls around February 4th.
Uh-huh.
So the new year almost always ends up being the second, or sometimes the third, new moon right after the winter solstice. That solar anchor is what prevents the lunar calendar from just, drifting away from the seasons entirely.
Okay, so now we get to the necessary correction.
Yeah.
Because if you have 12 lunar months, that's only about 354 days. You're losing 11 days every single year compared to the sun. That would quickly lead to the new year falling in, like summer within a decade or two. So how do they correct that massive 11-day annual drift without just breaking the whole system?
This is where the engineering of the time system gets really intricate. They introduce a 13-month long year.
A leap year, but with a whole month.
The whole month, it includes a 30-day leap month, or Renewal. This happens approximately 7 times every 19 years, which is a cycle known as the Metonic cycle. It's a massive periodic correction designed specifically to keep the calendar aligned with the solar year.
It really is an intricate dance. It's not just a simple add a day every 4 years like we do.
Not at all.
And the sources noted that this precise astronomical adjustment results in very specific movements for the date.
That's right. If you look at the dates from year to year, they'll shift backward by 10, 11, or 12 days in most years. That's that annual drift being corrected. But if the date falls particularly early, say in late January, that 13th renew gets inserted.
Hmm.
And then the start of the next new year has to jump forward by a much larger amount, 18, 19, or even 20 days, to re-anchor itself to Lichen.
It's a constant self-regulating system.
Exactly. It respects both the orbit of the sun and the phase of the moon.
To really appreciate the elegance of that, I think we should contrast it with the messy, political, and frankly chaotic way the West dealt with its own timekeeping issues.
You mean moving from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar?
Exactly.
Yeah, that transition was fraught. The Julian calendar was established by Julius Caesar way back in 46 BC. By the time Pope Gregory XIII introduced his reform in 1582, the Julian system had accumulated 10 full days of slippage.
10 days. But the sources remind us the transition wasn't, immediate or global. England in particular resisted this popish calendar for almost 200 years.
They absolutely resisted. A lot of it was religious politics. They clung to the Julian calendar, and they kept the traditional start of the year on March 25th, Lady Day.
Imagine the confusion for international trade and communication.
It was a nightmare. You had Scotland adopting January 1st way back in 1600, while England held fast to March 25th. So the same day could literally be a different year depending on where you were in Great Britain.
So Parliament finally acted with the Calendar Act of 1750, which took effect in 1752. And this did two things, right?
Right. It shifted the start of the year to January 1st, and it addressed the accumulated slippage, which by that point had grown to 11 days.
And this is where we get the legend of the skipped days.
Exactly. To realign the calendar with the spring equinox, 11 days had to be just excised from the month of September 1752. The law dictated that Wednesday, September 2nd, would be followed immediately by Thursday, September 14th.
Skipping 11 days, that must have created just absolute chaos, not just logistically, but psychologically. How did people react to having 11 days of their lives erased?
Well, the sources recount significant social tension. There was genuine confusion. People were concerned about rent payments.
Of course.
Do I still owe a full month's rent for a shorter month? There were some religious dissenters worried about holy days. But the famous image we have of rioters in the streets demanding, "Give us our 11 days," that's largely attributed by historians to a piece of political satire.
You're talking about William Hogarth's 1755 painting, An Election Entertainment.
That's the one. Hogarth was satirizing the political divisions of the 1754 election, where the calendar change was still this potent, divisive issue. And he included a campaign banner on the floor that read, "Give us our 11 days."
So it was a meme.
It was basically a political meme. Most historians agree that while there were objections, this image of widespread dramatic rioting just never happened. It was a visual that was cemented by Hogarth's art, and it illustrates just how profoundly timekeeping affects public and political life.
That's a fascinating look at the social volatility of it all. But the sources offered an even darker, more consequential impact of calendar differences.
The 1968 Toot Offensive? This really underscores that the architecture of time can be a matter of life and death. The Tet Nguyen celebration in Vietnam is based on the same lunisolar principles, but in 1968, North and South Vietnam used different time zones to calculate the start of the holiday.
The North was on UTC plus 07.0, while the U.S. back south was on UTC plus 08.00, which was Beijing time.
Correct. The first new moon of 1968 happened at 16.29 UTC on January 29th. So, based on their time zones, North Vietnam started their holiday celebrations on January 29th at 23.29.
Okay.
South Vietnam, however, only entered the holiday on January 30th at 0.15.
So 46 minutes of asynchronous timing during what was supposed to be a massive truce for the holiday.
Precisely. And that small 46-minute window was exploited by North Vietnamese forces to launch their massive coordinated attacks all across South Vietnam.
Wow.
They knew military preparedness would be at its lowest right at the start of the sacred holiday, and that timing differential gave them crucial first strike advantages. It just shows how a technical choice, like a reference time zone, can determine geopolitical vulnerability.
That geopolitical timing is intense. But the cultural timing is equally intense, and it's driven by a fear that predates any of these calendar calculations, the fear of the monster Nian.
Right, the foundation of so many of the customs, especially the use of red and loud noises, traces directly back to this core mythology.
And the word for the beast, Nian, is just the Chinese word for year.
It's the embodiment of the annual turning point itself, and this wasn't some friendly creature.
No. What did the Nian do every New Year's Eve?
The sources describe Nian as this fierce, horned, lion-like beast that would emerge from its home either deep under the sea or high in the mountains to raid villages. And it specifically targeted livestock and children. It was a yearly terror.
It forced villagers to flee their homes and hide.
So the traditions we cherish today are essentially the remnants of these early defense mechanisms.
So how did they discover its weaknesses?
The legend says that one year, this old, mysterious man appeared and refused to flee with everyone else. Instead, he strategically used red paper to decorate the homes, and he set off loud firecrackers. When the villagers returned the next day, they found the village was completely intact. They concluded the old man must have been a deity, and that the monster was terrified of two specific things: the color red and deafening noise.
So the entire cultural soundscape and the entire color palette of the holiday is essentially a giant 15-day ritual designed to repel an ancient sea monster.
That's exactly right. And the ritual became institutionalized. Wearing red clothing, hanging red lanterns, pasting spring couplets on doorways. All red, all loud. Even the term for celebrating the holiday, Nian, literally means pass the year, or maybe more accurately, defeat the monster Nian. The fear drives the collective action.
The traditions then are dual-purposed. You repel the bad from the past year, the Nian, and you welcome the good for the coming year. This preparation starts with a spiritual cleansing of the home.
Yes, the thorough cleaning. This is one of the most serious rituals in the days leading up to the New Year. There's a Cantonese saying, "Wash away the dirt on Ninya Butt," on the 28th day of the 12th month.
And it's not just regular cleaning.
No, it's a symbolic act of sweeping away all the ill fortune, the spiritual dust, and bad luck of the past 12 months. You're creating a spiritually pristine space for the New Year's prosperity to land.
And once that space is purified, you have to protect the incoming good luck from being accidentally undone.
The taboos begin immediately. The primary rule is that all brooms, dustpans, and cleaning tools must be put away and remain unused on the first day of the new year.
Because you don't want to sweep out the good luck you just invited in.
You absolutely do not. This is why families try to accumulate as much trash as they can before the new year, and then they only dispose of it on a dedicated cleanup day later in the festival.
Beyond the physical space, this preparation requires a complete personal and financial cleansing. You have to start the new cycle with zero baggage.
The financial reset is paramount. The traditional expectation is that all outstanding debts must be settled before New Year's Eve.
Not just money, right?
Not just money. This includes, crucially, debts of gratitude. Our sources highlight this as an ethical obligation, often fulfilled by sending gifts or specialty goods to associates or family to just zero out the social ledger. Starting the year free of debt, financial or social, is key.
I find the personal rituals just as fascinating because they rely entirely on the intricacies of the Chinese language. Homonyms, specifically. Why do you have to get your hair cut before the new year?
It's that powerful language link. The word for hair, fa, is a homonym for the word for prosperity. So if you cut your hair on New Year's Day, you are symbolically cutting away your incoming prosperity for the year. It's that direct. Similarly, buying new clothes and new shoes symbolizes a clean, fresh break from the past. Your whole appearance is aligned with the incoming good fortune.
Okay, once all the preparations are complete, the entire focus narrows down to the single most important event, the reunion dinner on New Year's Eve.
Oh.
And this isn't just a big family meal, it is a pilgrimage event. It's traditionally held at the home of the most senior member of the family.
Which really solidifies that Confucian emphasis on hierarchy and respect for elders. It's the ultimate manifestation of family unity. The meal is lavish, but the communal nature is often highlighted by a centerpiece hot pot.
Right.
The hot pot, where everyone cooks ingredients together in the same broth, it symbolizes the collective coming together of all family members, especially those who've traveled great distances.
And after the feast, the family engages in shusui. What's the cultural reason behind this New Year's Eve vigil?
Shisui, or staying up late, is a deep ritual of filial piety. The tradition holds that remaining awake on New Year's Eve, especially past midnight, symbolically adds time and longevity to your parents' lives.
It's a quiet but intense act of collective wishing.
Absolutely. And for the truly devout, the vigil extends beyond the home, right to the temples, often hours before the calendar even flips.
Right.
Yes. Sources describe families visiting local temples just before midnight to light the first stick of incense of the year. Being among the first to offer incense is seen as vital to make sure your prayers for success and health are heard at the very start of the new cycle.
Let's move to the most delicious part of the festival,
Mm.
the food. This brings us back to that intricate relationship between the language and the ritual.
Mm.
The feast is not random at all.
Not in the slightest. It's a carefully engineered symbolic statement about the future. We called it the homophone economy.
The homophone economy, I like that.
To get it, you have to understand that Chinese is a tonal language with a huge number of homophones, words that sound alike but mean totally different things.
Huh.
So the culture just weaponizes this wordplay. If you want something to happen, like prosperity, you eat a food whose name sounds like the thing you want. It's programmed wishing, and the entire dinner table is a manifestation of desired outcomes.
So it's an applied technology of language. Let's look at the specifics, starting with the most critical dish, fish.
Fish, or yu, is indispensable. Its pronunciation is identical to the word for surpluses or excess. But the ritual around the fish is what really matters. It must not be completely eaten. The remainder is deliberately stored overnight. This physical act of leaving food visually represents the wish for, may there be surpluses every year.
That intentional non-consumption is so counter to many Western customs. What about the dumplings, the jiaozi? Their symbolism seems more visual.
It's twofold, visual and the act of consumption. Whether they're the jiaozi of the north or the jiaogok of the south, their crescent shape is an unmistakable echo of a Chinese saisi, the ancient gold and silver ingots.
So you're literally consuming wealth.
You're literally eating wealth. And to increase the potency, sometimes small coins or pieces of nianga or dried dates are mixed into the fillings for extra luck.
And the sticky rice cake, niango, ubiquitous in eastern China.
Its homophone is maybe the most direct wish for success. Niango's pronunciation sounds like a more prosperous year, literally year high or climbing higher each year. Its stickiness also symbolizes family cohesion.
Even the side dishes have this kind of financial weight. Garlic and cured meats.
Oh yeah, the cured meat rondelles are significant because their slices resemble coins. And the garlic, suan, served with them is a homophone for calculating money.
Wow.
So the combination is intended to ensure you're capable of calculating and managing all the wealth you're about to acquire.
So you have uncut noodles for longevity, apples for peace. The table is an absolute blueprint for the future. Once dinner is done, the 15-day cycle begins to unfold, with specific days for specific actions.
The first week is full of intense visiting and ritual, but the third day, Chiku, is this fascinating pause in the action.
Why is day 3, Redmouth, considered so unlucky?
It's associated with Chigu, the god of blazing wrath, and it's considered an ill-fated day for socializing. The superstition is strong. You must avoid having guests or going out to visit. In some Hakka communities, it was specifically known as the Day of the Poor Devil. Everyone just stayed home.
So after meticulously cleaning the house, you still have to deal with all the waste from the feasting. Is there a dedicated cleanup day?
Yes, on the 6th day, often called the Horse's Day, there's a ritual of driving away the ghost of poverty. This is when families can finally discard all the accumulated garbage from the festival.
Ah, so you've protected the good luck, and now you can get rid of the trash.
Exactly. You're ridding yourself of past poverty and hardship.
And day 7, Renri, is a major collective milestone.
Renri is the common person's birthday. In the traditional Chinese age reckoning system, everyone symbolically grows 1 year older on this day.
A shared birthday.
It emphasizes collective humanity. And in Southeast Asian Chinese communities, this is the day they eat yusheng, that popular raw fish salad that's ceremonially tossed high for continued wealth.
And the whole 2-week cycle concludes on the 15th day with the Lantern Festival.
Day 15 is the grand conclusion. Families eat tangyuan, these sweet glutinous rice balls that symbolize reunion and fullness. They light decorative lanterns, often round and red, and the main activity is guessing riddles written on them.
And you mentioned it's important to distinguish these lanterns from the ones at the Mid-Autumn Festival.
Right, it's about the specificity of tradition. The Mid-Autumn Festival is about Thanksgiving, viewing the full moon. The New Year lanterns, however, are purely for decorative light, welcoming the start of the year and serving as the medium for the riddle game. The function defines the form, and they strictly define the end of the spring festival.
The giving of red envelopes, the hongbao, is globally recognizable. But we established its origin is far more than just gifting. It's an active spiritual defense.
It is a critical piece of the ritual economy. The red envelope, hongbao or laisi, is a transmitted blessing and a form of tangible protection. They're given by married couples or elders to unmarried juniors and children. And the cash inside is known as yasukian,
Which means...
money to suppress evil spirits.
And this practice is rooted in the fear of the Sui demon.
The sources say the demon Sui would emerge on New Year's Eve, targeting sleeping children by patting them on the head 3 times, which would cause a severe fever.
So what was the defense?
To protect them, parents developed the ritual of wrapping coins in red paper and placing them under the children's pillows. When Sui approached, the flash of the coins was bright enough to scare the demon away.
So the Hongbao was literally an amulet, an anti-demon tool.
Exactly. A physical, money-based amulet. It's a powerful concept. But today, that ancient tradition has run headlong into the modern digital economy.
And it has completely integrated
Oh,
itself.
completely. The rise of digital red envelopes via platforms like WeChat and Alipay has been explosive. This technology lets you transmit Yazukian across massive distances instantly, without any physical proximity or cash. It maintains the essence of the blessing, but it eliminates the physical exchange of the coin amulet.
That behavioral shift from a physical amulet to a digital transfer is the core tension we need to resolve. But first, let's talk about the taboos. It's not just what you do, but what you meticulously avoid.
The list of gift taboos is extensive. It's designed to maintain social harmony, ward off misfortune, and prevent any suggestion of severed ties. They are non-negotiable social rules.
So what are the primary categories of items you must never gift?
First, you avoid all items associated with funerals or death. So that means anything colored white or black, handkerchiefs, towels, flowers like chrysanthemums.
And because the new year is about starting a new life, anything that symbolizes the end of time must also be avoided.
Absolutely. Clocks and watches are highly taboo. The symbolism is twofold. They suggest time running out, and the homonym for clock sounds like the funeral ritual.
So gifting a timepiece is seen as wishing death upon someone.
Basically, yes. You also can't give anything that suggests cutting a tie.
Like sharp objects.
Exactly, no scissors or knives. And you avoid shoes or sandals because they symbolize walking away from a relationship.
And I want to circle back to the language, because the homonym alert extends beyond objects to fruits, even clothing colors.
It is crucial to vet every single gift. You can't gift pairs because the word sounds like separate. An umbrella is avoided because the word sounds like disperse or break up, and the ultimate social offense is giving a green hat, because the phrase wear a green hat is a derogatory homonym for cuckold. The level of meticulous language avoidance just shows how deeply superstition permeates every social interaction during this period.
One of the biggest mistakes people make is treating the Lunar New Year as this monolithic Chinese event. But our deep dive confirms it's a global tapestry, adopted and customized by so many cultures.
You see that immediately when you look at Korea's celebration, Seollal. It's based on the lunar calendar, but is a distinctly Korean holiday, typically celebrated for 3 days.
And what are the most significant cultural differences in how Seollal is observed?
The core differences are in the ancestor rites and the food. Share is the ancestral rite performed on the morning of Seollal. The family sets a ceremonial table with specific foods to honor their ancestors. After that, there's sebe, the deep, formal bow that younger generations perform to the elders as a sign of respect.
Often in traditional clothing, the hanbok.
Right. And the specific food is unique. The mandate is tteokguk, rice cake soup. Korean tradition dictates you must eat a bowl of tteokguk to formally welcome the new year and gain 1 year of age. The consumption is directly tied to your age advancing.
Moving south, Vietnam's Thich Nguyen Anh also highlights how deep this local specialization runs, especially with the food.
Tet is also a 3-day celebration centered on family, but its symbolism is rooted heavily in the local agricultural economy. The most important foods are the sticky rice cakes. Bonchung, which is square, and bontet, which is cylindrical.
And what do those shapes symbolize?
The square bonchung is said to symbolize the earth, while the cylindrical bontet symbolizes the sky. They're seen as the essence of the rice-growing landscape, so they're crucial offerings to ancestors, embodying the renewal of nature itself.
Now, Japan offers a perfect historical counterpoint because they deliberately detached themselves from the lunisolar calendar.
Japan is the great exception. They completely shifted to the Gregorian calendar on January 1st, 1873, during the Meiji Restoration, explicitly to modernize and align with Western powers. So today, Shugatsu is celebrated from January 1st to 3rd.
So even though it lost its lunar foundation, the holiday still maintains these intense spiritual and traditional practices.
Absolutely. The focus just shifted from astronomical alignment to spiritual renewal. You have Hatsuhinode, the first sunrise of the year, which is considered a sacred moment, and that's followed by Hatsumide, the first formal visit to a Shinto shrine or Buddhist temple. They still use traditional decorations and eat special osechi cuisine. The ritualistic importance of the New Year transcends the specific calendar.
And beyond Asia, these celebrations have flourished in the diaspora, particularly in North America, where they've gained significant political and cultural recognition.
That recognition is definitely growing. California declared the Lunar New Year an official state holiday effective in 2023. New York City observes it as an official public school holiday. These actions recognize the cultural and economic importance of the celebration.
San Francisco holds a particularly important place in this history, right?
It has the oldest continuous celebrations outside of Asia, dating back to the 1860s. It was a conscious effort by Chinatown residents to share their culture during the Gold Rush era, and they specifically adapted an American tradition, the parade, with their own symbols. Lions, dragons, drums.
Turning a defensive ritual into a cultural display.
Exactly, and today it draws staggering numbers.
And Los Angeles has seen the celebration shift and grow, especially in the suburban Chinatowns.
The Golden Dragon Parade in LA's historic Chinatown is a major event, but much of the growth is now in places like the San Gabriel Valley, the first suburban Chinatown. Monterey Park hosts one of the largest festivals, attracting over 100,000 visitors. The cultural heart is shifting and expanding.
We've established that the Lunar New Year is primarily about family reunion, and that need creates the single largest logistical challenge on the planet.
Chonyun, the spring travel rush. It is officially the world's largest annual human migration. We are talking about millions upon millions of migrant workers and students who have to travel back to their hometowns. The scale is almost unimaginable.
Hundreds of millions of people moving over just a few weeks. How has technology fundamentally changed the process of securing travel?
Technology is now the primary enabler. Securing a train ticket used to be this physical, sometimes violent ordeal with huge lines. Now mobile apps have taken over. By 2017, the vast majority of all train tickets were sold via the internet or mobile apps.
So it's not just convenience, it's a necessary mechanism for control.
Correct. The scale demands these centralized automated systems, and it's drastically reduced the friction and corruption that used to be associated with physical ticket sales. The technology literally enables the essential cultural mandate of family reunion.
And beyond travel, the second major logistical component is shopping. The tradition of purchasing Nian New Year essentials has also been utterly subverted by e-commerce.
The Nian traditionally involves buying specialty goods, gifts, new clothes, food, decorations. This used to mean crowded markets. Now, a massive portion of this shopping rush has shifted online.
And crucially, the sources showed that the greatest growth in online sales isn't just in the big coastal cities.
No, the fastest growing segment is in rural areas and lower tier cities. These are often the exact destinations of the Chenyun travelers. E-commerce platforms are now competing fiercely to deliver these specialty goods right to the remotest family homes.
But this profound convenience, this logistical efficiency, it comes with a cultural trade-off. We have data on the social impact. Is technology enriching the festival, or is it fundamentally changing its soul?
The consumer feedback shows a deep division. We saw that 40% of respondents agreed that the changes are positive, making the new year more fabulous and meaningful. They value the ease of connection, the instant hongbao, the efficiency.
But the concern about losing the essence is strong.
Indeed. A quarter of respondents, 25%, reported that these changes are detracting from the original meaning, tarnishing the festival's traditional flavor.
And what were the examples they gave?
They cite replacing critical, often difficult in-person visits with easy online messages, or families watching the annual Spring Festival gala separately on screens while texting rather than sitting together in the living room. There's a palpable sense that technology is increasing physical distance within these intensely family-centric rituals.
This tension convenience versus traditional observance isn't unique to the Lunar New Year. We see it in the West's biggest winter holiday, Christmas.
That comparison holds up well. Christmas also has deep roots tied to pagan celebrations of the winter solstice. Fixing Christ's birth on December 25th was intentional, lining it with the Roman holiday for the birthday of the unconquered sun.
So if the roots are pagan and the purpose was spiritual, when did the holiday become this engine of consumerism?
The commercialization began surprisingly early, but it exploded in the 19th century, particularly in America. Department stores really took the lead, promoting gift-giving as this secular, mandatory centerpiece of the holiday. They professionalized the ritual of giving.
And this professionalization relied heavily on codifying the central mythological figure for commerce, Santa Claus.
The formalization of Santa Claus was critical. He became this non-denominational, child-centric focal point for gift-giving, transforming him into what some scholars call the god of materialism. His image was meticulously designed to drive consumer desire.
And the commercial success demonstrates that media and marketing are interchangeable, whether for Western holidays or the Nian rush. We see this when specific products become mandatory through a media frenzy.
Absolutely. The publicity strategy works the same way. Think about the strategic commercialization that turned Tickle Me Elmo into a frenzy in 1996, or the intense media coverage that drove demand for Furby in 1998. The mechanism is identical to how Chinese e-commerce platforms strategically push certain gifts during the Nian War season. It's manufactured necessity.
And today, technology allows that commercial message to reach every single traveler's phone instantly. This deep dive has shown us that marking the new year, whether we adhere to the fixed rhythm of the Gregorian calendar or the complex dance of the lunisolar calendar, is fundamentally about the same things: hope, reflection, and the intense need for community. We start by honoring ancestors, driving away the demon Nian with color and noise, and meticulously preparing our homes and our finances for a clean start.
We've explored the precision required from the 13th month Renewal correction to keep the seasons aligned, to the incredible homophone economy that programs prosperity onto the dinner table. And we saw how deeply these cultural expressions vary, from the family shari rites during Korea's Seolal to the massive human tide of Chunyun in China.
Enabled only by the latest mobile ticketing technology. Yet both the Lunar New Year and Christmas are wrestling with this dilemma of technological distance. We noted that a significant percentage of people feel that replacing the physical, arduous rituals of reunion with instant digital communication is tarnishing the essential flavor of the festival.
Which brings us back to our starting paradox and our final provocative thought for you to chew on. If the Hanba was originally a means of combating the demon Sui, using the flash of physical coins wrapped in red paper, a tangible protective amulet,
Right.
and is now primarily a digital transfer facilitated instantly via WeChat, what ancient protective or ritualistic essence is lost when the interaction becomes purely transactional?
Is the convenience of digital technology inadvertently creating new forms of social or spiritual distance within these intensely family-centric festivals? And how do families ensure that the traditional meaning of Yasukin money to suppress evil spirits is protected when the act is reduced to the push of a button and an intangible transfer? Something to consider as you reflect on the cyclical and ever-evolving architecture of time whenever your new year may fall.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.